Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and you're watching Glenda's Dragons Den. LD went on a mission for me, so he will not be here today. You guys had him last week. What can I say? I have a great guest here tonight. Her name is Nancy Thames, and she is an experiencer and I'm just going to let her introduce herself. She's got so many good experiences. And, well, hi, Nancy. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. So, anyway, we'll get started. I'm Nancy Thames. It's
Yeah.
pronounced a little differently.
So,
So, it's like the Thames River in England.
okay.
And I am a lifelong contactee and my experiences are all positive, and they are with the interdimensionals and the positive extraterrestrials. And my first conscious memories that I can reflect back on, easily remember, are from like 2 to 3 years old. And my memories at this age were all very pleasant, fun. I look forward to it. It was basically like playtime. It was a teaching process, but it was basically fun for me. And the beautiful part about that, it was at that age, there were no barriers. The world around me, I was very limited in what my exposure was. So nothing, there was nothing about it. I had no reason to be scared. So it was very, very pleasant. And I did mention to my family at times that there were little beings in my room, and they would just brush it off and say, "That's silly. You're just, having a very vivid dream. You've got a big imagination there," or something to those effects, and just basically brushed it off. So this has been going on all my life. So I'm 64 years old now, and I still have these visits with extraterrestrials and interdimensionals. And basically, the way it works for me, it's changed a little bit as I've gotten older. But basically, what happens is they will send three grays. Three grays come to me, and I'm either near asleep, almost asleep, or I'm either asleep. And usually, because of the frequency exchange between them and me, I know that they're coming. Sometimes I may sleep through it, but a lot of times I will wake up and I know that they're coming. And I'll sometimes will raise up and look around for them to show themselves, and they do. And so basically what would happen, as starting when I was young, I've always remembered them taking a handheld device, and they would take it and run it down, like from my head to my toes and my toes back up to my head, over and over. And it never touched me, but it was a handheld device, and it was the one female gray. And it's funny, she's considered a gray, but she is a reddish brown color. She's not gray at all, but she is the typical looking type gray. And I know, I did not know at the time, but of course now I know there's many, many different races of grays in all kinds of colors and all types of heights. So this particular one was, I now know that she is a hybrid gray, and she was created by the interdimensional beings and the tall grays. And they created this type grays to do their legwork. The extraterrestrials and the interdimensionals are not compatible with the density on Earth. They can do it, but it's not favorable. They don't particularly like it. So they designed this type of gray, these grays, to do the legwork. So it's always, they travel in threes when they come to get a contactee or whoever. And they always, I'm bonded with the female. I don't really even know the other two. And I really don't know if they are the same ones, but I do know that the one female, I am bonded to her. And we have a loving, very tight connection between us. And it's not the same way that you would, how I could even explain really, because she is a extraterrestrial. She is not a human being. So her she speaks with me telepathic, and so her facial features, she doesn't show emotion like human beings do, and she's pretty bland in like her conversation. And another strange thing is that when she's telepathic with me, I cannot sense inflection in her, in the telepathic message, and I cannot sense male or female, but I do know that she's female because of her frequency and the feelings, and I just know.
Mm-hmm.
So, so all my life, I was always, as I got older, and at times when I got to about junior high or close to high school in those areas, I started realizing specifically that my parents did not ever want me talking about stuff like this out in public. I grew up in Tennessee, which is part of a Bible Belt area,
Mm-hmm.
and these topics were not considered very good or tasteful,
Right.
during the time that I was growing up. So I wasn't allowed to talk about it, with family members. I wasn't allowed to talk about it at school or at Girl Scouts or really anything that I was involved in. It was just a topic. So I learned from at a very young age not to talk about these things. My parents had even told me that don't you slip up and start talking about this. We know you like to talk about it, but they have institutionalized people into mental, facilities for having these topics and talking about it. So, to keep peace amongst
Mm-hmm.
my family and for myself, I just,
Mm-hmm.
kept it, I suppressed it. I just suppressed it. And so basically, I dealt with this all on my own. And I can tell you, it was not easy. When something's going on in your life and everyone tells you that it's not real, that it's a dream, or, you're hearing all these things, it's very disturbing, very disturbing. But I managed.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't even know how I managed, except that I know that when I was with the extraterrestrials and interdimensionals, they made it all worth it,
Mm-hmm.
and gave me the reassurance that I was doing and experiencing the right thing. However, there's many times through my spiritual growth or just my intellect that
Mm-hmm.
I became very, very fearful, very scared, because I would read things, I
Mm-hmm.
would hear things. And so my experiences changed somewhat. What they would do is they are telepathic. So everything that I feel, they would feel 10 times, tenfold the amount. And
Right.
they are not used to anxiety, fear, drama, crying. They're not used to that. So they would take their hand, touch me on my forehead,
Mm-hmm.
and put me in a trance like state. I was fully functional, but I was like a sedated, very calm, and without the medication, but I was very, able to go through the whole process, but in a zombie kind of like, I don't know what word really to describe it, but I was just, I lost all fears. I lost
Right.
everything. And the only problem with that though is when I would return home or wake up the next morning or during the night afterwards, my memories would be fragmented. They would not be the full conscious
Right.
memories that I had had before. And so that was very distressing for me. And so I basically had to learn to not be in fear. I had to learn to understand the feelings that I was feeling as I got older.
Mm-hmm.
The frequency of exchange was more intensified. And I don't know why, if that was part of the process of getting me prepared for who I am today or exactly what it all was. But I do know that it it changed as I got older. And I know because I do understand it all, you know, I mean, 64 years, that's a long time to finally figure some things out. But I finally started figuring things out, and I started asking questions to them. So I know now what they were doing when they were holding that device and running it up and down. It was a vibrational frequency device. And our living here in a 3D world, we would not be able to go through a ceiling or through a window or through a door.
Right.
So basically, they were changing my frequency to match their frequency. And then that way I could travel as they were. And we would travel like that when a craft was close by. There were other ways that they would transport me if there was a distance or whatever. And a lot of times they would put me, or still do, put me in that kind of trance type state, because a lot of times now when I come back, they'll wake me up and they're putting me in the bed. But oh my goodness, my stomach feels like it's been through a humongous tunnel. So apparently I went some great distance to go wherever they were wanting me to go. So it's really strange. All these things that were happening, and I never really understood it. And unfortunately, not until my sons became adults and they have their own experiences like I have. And my oldest son and I both, they gave us Kundalini awakenings. For me, mine was about 2 years ago, and I was having a problem. They were giving me downloads and messages, but I was having a problem of understanding or accepting where the messages were coming from. Like, I would say, did I just think that? Or, I was questioning. And so to speed the process up, they decided to give me a Kundalini awakening. That way I knew something happened to me. I knew what the process was. And so I would fully accept it, which not everybody has to go through that, but I needed it, to understand it all. I needed that. So, but once that happened, that opened up my subconscious, and then the information more or less came flooding in, and it was like kind of like reassuring some of the things I already knew, but I was questioning myself on how I know these things, or where is this coming from, that kind of thing. So it's been a very strange process, but it is nice now. I have my oldest son, my youngest son. He's not as far along into this process, and that's okay because everybody's different. We're all on a spiritual path here. Not everybody's here doing the same thing, but we all, in my opinion, and what they've told me, we all chose to be here, and we're all here working on this human experience and trying to learn things and trying to better ourselves. So, it took me a long time to get to where I am today, and it is because of the interdimensionals and the positive extraterrestrials that I am here and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But throughout the process, the first time I saw my children taken for the first time, when I was in my early 30s, late 20s, somewhere through there, I was very upset when that happened, because I had accepted that it was happening to me, but I had no idea that I was going to wake up one night and witness seeing my children taken. And it was very scary. And I felt their presence, and I raised up and looked, and these were 3 different grays. These grays were 3 foot tall, and they were wearing robes and very high collars. And when I raised up, one approached me and pressed me down and telepathically said, "This is not about you." And then they put me in a sleep paralysis, or he put me in a sleep paralysis, and I was unable to speak or move. And so I just watched the whole thing. And then I went to sleep. And the next morning, of course, when I woke up, there they were in the bed next to me. We were at a hotel in the Florida Keys, staying at a Marriott in Key West. And there they were, just fine as could be. And then when we went to breakfast, I asked them, does anybody want to talk about anything or have some strange dreams? And they just looked at me and said, no. And I was very upset,
Mm-hmm.
that this happened and that I was helpless. I couldn't do anything about it. I was very angry. So when I got back home, I meditated and asked for face to face contact. I asked for questions, like, why me? Why is this happening? What is the purpose? Why are my children? Um, and so it didn't happen immediately. And so I went to sleep, and eventually they did come and get me and took me aboard a craft and took me before a group of elders. And when I went before the elders, they explained to me that I had made a decision to be a part of to be here for humanity, to help them understand we are not alone in the universe,
Mm-hmm.
and something big was going to be happening, and they couldn't explain it all to me at that time, but later on they would. So they showed me a vision of myself after they explained it to me, but I was still shaking my head. So they showed me a vision, and basically what it boiled down to is that I was an interdimensional before I came to Earth, and I agreed to come here and be part of this process that humanity is going through right now. And they showed me myself as a etheric being, more or less, going in through the process of uh, coming up to the mother, and my soul going into a fetus within a mother. And they
Mm-hmm.
showed me this whole process. And at the time, I didn't understand any of that, and it's certainly not something you're going to run around and ask people about. So I just left it. So it wasn't until later on, and I had the Kundalini awakening, and
Mm-hmm.
then further contact with them, physical interactions where they, you know, explained to me the whole 9 yards of what was going on in my life, and that my children had made a decision to do this too. And we were all from there. And that's why they've been coming to see me all my life, and why they see my children as well. So it's strange, but it's real.
Yeah, it sounds like you say it's strange to many people, but it happens so often. It's just that people do not want to talk about it because, like you said, even still now, there's still, even though it's wide open, there's still the hesitation to talk about it in case somebody doesn't really understand. And you have a doctor here or a doctor there that's going to say, I
Yeah,
think you may need a vacation, and but I could tell you, I've been very blessed like yourself. It's always been positive experiences for me. And like you said, there's so many different races
there really is.
of not just grays, but even
Yeah.
Arcturians, this, that, every single
Hmm.
type that we could think of.
Yeah.
Within that, there's a lot.
Yeah. And there's a lot of types that we don't even know about down
Right.
here. I've seen aquatic beings, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
some species that look like a human from the top, but if you look down at their feet, they look like an animal or something like that.
Right.
So there's a lot of, we are
Mm-hmm.
not alone in the universe at all. And
Never were. Never were.
we never have been. And because we're in this 3D world,
Mm-hmm.
and we're using only our five senses to understand the world around us, there's so much within our world itself and on our planet and in our own universe. We just simply don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think as we go through this ascension and as we reach higher consciousness, our awareness will start to open up more. And I'm not talking about just a few of us. I think really an awareness in higher consciousness for all of humanity. And it won't happen overnight, but as it does, it will be so gradual. People will think that things have always been that way. It won't be the shock that people think that
Right.
people will run around crazy and things. It will never happen like that, because everything that's ever been done since our creation was done in such a beautiful, slow paced way so that it's easily understood by all. And it's just a peaceful way of doing it. It's just beautiful, really. They've
Hmm.
showed me visions, and I see it happening. We're already, things are changing. Our
Yes.
planet is changing. Our world is changing, and human beings are changing. We are becoming better human beings
Yes.
without even knowing it. It's just part of our evolution. I think we're at an evolutionary process of really understanding who we are, our true origins, and what our capabilities and why we are important.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And why even this 3D is so important,
yeah,
because we come here as a classroom, and people don't understand it's very thick. Please, we have very limited understanding of everything, and the more that we open up and are willing to understand, the more stuff we will see and experience, like you
yeah.
said. And even people say, oh, plants are just plants. You look at plants, they radiate.
Oh, they
Eh,
communicate.
they communicate, they
They are
radiate.
living conscious beings,
Yes,
and
exactly.
the extraterrestrials and the interdimensionals have they have proved all these things to me. And our whole planet is alive. Our
Yeah.
planet is a living conscious being,
Yes.
and our universe is a living conscious being. Even our water is a living conscious being. And
Mm,
you can see the frequencies. If you take a glass of water and apply frequency to it, it
mhm,
all, the structure, molecular structure, all changes into beautiful things. It's just
mhm.
beautiful. So it's amazing. It is really amazing to me that, but it's really strange. A lot of people like, why didn't it happen sooner or whatever? We are human beings. All these things we had to, it's just like life here on earth.
Right.
We have to go through some bad things to be able to have the strength and the knowledge to achieve higher consciousness and to
Hmm.
achieve higher goals or higher realms of understanding of the world around us. It's just like when we're born, we have to crawl before we walk. It's basically the
Exactly.
same thing. So even if things, a lot of things may change in our futures, that doesn't mean that anything, whether it was good or bad, was wrong. It served a purpose,
Hmm.
and we learn from it.
You're so right. You're so
Yeah,
right. Now, you worked for the Department of Defense.
I did.
How did that work out with your knowledge and your
Well,
experiences?
I assume that they knew nothing about me.
Okay.
They may have, I don't know. I got the job pretty quickly, and automatically I was, first place I went was to Hawaii. And so, uh, and I had been living in Australia for almost 5 years, between 4 to 5 years before that. So it was kind of strange, but everything that I've experienced, living in different countries and exploring different cultures and things, I really think that the interdimensionals and the extraterrestrials instigated these things. They wanted me to experience different cultures. They wanted me to experience what the government is like, because I was a civilian worker for the Department of Defense,
Right.
and I was in dentistry. And I did have a security clearance because I worked with the commander general. I was a direct hire by the commander of the medical dental Pacific, whole Pacific Rim, which is quite unusual. At the
Hmm.
time, I just thought it was right place, right time. Now, reflected back, there was something going on there I probably didn't realize at the time, because
Hmm.
it was just almost too perfect. you know, it was, it was very strange. And then all of a sudden, I end up right back. It was like I was all over the Pacific for a period of time, which was kind of unusual. And it was frustrating to my parents because that
Mm.
was about as far as away as you could move away, you know.
Mhm.
And things have not been easy for me. I mentioned in my bio and different things about personal struggles and
Right.
stuff like that. I've had two failed marriages that were very shattering.
Mhm.
And I had two children, dragging them around and things like that. So things have not been easy, but I understand now we all have to experience certain things to
Right.
make us who we are today. And nothing in our past defines who we are. It just means that we are stronger because we have learned to be better humans. So I think everything, and I think all of us, we shouldn't feel sorry for ourselves because
Sure.
it's it's just a way of life of teaching us things,
Mhm.
and it's hard for people to understand, why sometimes we struggle with certain things, but there is usually a purpose to things, even if we don't understand it. I've come
Mm.
to realize that now that I'm older. I still don't like everything
No.
about it, a lot. I just lost a daughter-in-law on Thanksgiving Day
Ooh.
that has the two grandsons and that are 6 and 3. And, I have a hard time understanding that.
Mhm.
But, there's some things that it's just like, for example, when they came and took my two sons when I was in my 30s, I was awake and saw the whole thing. They could have done that without me even knowing.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason, they wanted me to know. Now I understand a lot, and I perceive it quite differently. They wanted me to know that there was more than me that's involved in this process of getting us ready for what we're doing today.
Right.
But at the time, it was detrimental,
Mhm.
and it's just like some these things that happen in our life, we don't understand it exactly at the moment, but later we might understand it at a later date.
And I do believe that no matter what we go through, there's always something good for us. It
Yeah,
will be for our greatest good, whether it seems like it or not at the moment. Because when you're
that's right.
going through it, it's earth shattering. But
It is.
once you get past that and you realize that that happened in order to get here, in order to get this experience, in order to know this,
Yeah,
because you wouldn't have questioned anything if you had not witnessed it yourself.
that's true. Yeah,
So, and you wouldn't have seen what they showed you.
yeah.
So,
So it's funny, getting older, of course, it helps, but
yeah.
our perception changes so much.
Hmm.
It really does. So I guess the best thing is to tell people is to be patient, you
Hmm.
know, which is not an easy thing to do either, but it does pay off. It really does.
And I'm not that far behind you. I'll be 63 in June, so I'm not that far behind you. So I understand what you're getting older. You kind of see things a little different.
Yeah,
And as I am getting older, I also see my relationship with them getting stronger and more solid, basically.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm sure now you ask for a question, you'll get an answer right away instead of having to wait 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever. Right now, it's more like they probably have such a connection with you that they give you the answer like if you was just
yeah.
having a regular conversation.
Every night some people, I meditate, or for
Hmm.
me, it's a little deeper than a meditation because it's directed directly to them. And
Hmm.
I ask them every single night to open my subconscious more and more
Hmm.
because I do know that our human consciousness does protect us. That's what it's there for.
Right.
So there's probably a lot of things that are still up in here that I have not released. And so I talk to my subconscious. I meditate to my subconscious
Mm-hmm.
as well as speak to the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials to help me to further understand who I am, not the Nancy that the world around me has created,
Mm-hmm.
but the true Nancy that made a choice to be here on earth and came here with a purpose. And also, as every day as we get confronted and have to make decisions, to give me that, my subconscious, to give me that guidance I need,
Mm-hmm.
because we have been programmed to think and believe certain things from the minute we are born, and not all those things are correct. So
Mm-hmm.
I want, you know, to not second guess myself, and I want to believe in my, believe it and not
Yeah.
question it, I guess is what I'm saying.
You want further clarity so you don't
Yes.
have to say, oh, that's just me talking to myself instead of,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And that's where the human comes in,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, what directed you? What inspired you to do your website?
Well, they did. Even in my 20s, I knew that they wanted me to become more active and they wanted me to do things, but I was not ready.
Mm-hmm.
The world around me was not ready. And, like personal family members, friends, I would sometimes test the waters around me to see
Mm-hmm.
what kind of reaction. The world was not ready.
Right.
And they always told me that I would know. I
Mm-hmm.
would know. And so the first thing that I did was make that website Time for Disclosure. And that was kind of like putting my toe in the water, and doing it that way. And at that point, I was single and, I didn't have to answer to anybody. I decided that, I am who I am and that is enough.
Right.
And I'm going to be who I am. And I realized at the time that it would not make everyone in my family happy or all of my friends happy. But this was something I was finally doing for me, something
Mm-hmm.
that I always wanted to do, but the opportunity and the time was not right, you know. But I finally, the beautiful part is that my sons were getting older and becoming more spiritual and more open to all these ideas,
Mm-hmm.
which now one of them has the same experiences and the whole 9 yards and gets downloads and stuff like I do. The other one's still not there, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But that helped a great deal, and they gave me the opportunity and helped me to build the website. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had that good foundation that I needed, we all need a foundation or something reliable,
Support system.
a
Yeah.
support system. And I finally had that I never had before. So that's what got it going. And then, I did the Facebook group and it has just grown and grown. And I love every minute that I spend there. And I think
Mm-hmm.
anybody that's ever been in my group, you can see I spend a lot of time and put a lot of
Yes.
information, and it's the whole, it is very important to me. I do spend, it's not my total 100% of my life. I learned, a long time ago in the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials helped me with this, that we have to learn to balance our lives because we are here having a human experience, and this experience is just as important as our extraterrestrial life. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I do know now I have a human consciousness and an extraterrestrial consciousness. So I have to balance things out because I'm a grandmother, I'm a mother, and these things are beautiful and I love it. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to leave anytime soon. But I also know I have a family there,
Right.
extraterrestrial family, and they're waiting on me. They live much longer lives than what we live down here. So, and that was part of the agreement. Is that I would come and do this and have my family here, and they want me to enjoy it as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. So, and they always are checking not only on my physical health, but my mental health, because it's not an easy thing to do. It is not easy for anybody. They
No.
would be lying to you if they said that it's a bed of roses, or because it's hard when you're experiencing these things and nobody believes you. And also when the world around you, your science books, your religious books, everything is telling you that you are wrong.
Hmm.
It takes a heck of a person to be strong and believe in themselves. And it wasn't an easy ride. I mean, I'm just like anybody else. You have to. I had to figure out who I really am.
Hmm.
Who am I? You know, Forget what these other people think. Who am
Hmm.
I? You know, so that's what happened, and that's what got me going, and that's what keeps me persistent, and why I love it so much, and why these things come so easy to me, and a lot of things just pop up and present themselves to me, where it might not, all this stuff may not surface for a lot of people. They easily surface for me because it's like I have that energy and frequency that gravitates toward this, and so it's just there.
Hmm.
It's just there. It's hard to explain to people, but I kind of feel like you know what I'm talking
All
about.
right, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just it becomes available.
Because you allowed yourself to rise to that energy level, to that frequency, to allow them to
Yeah,
to create a space for them to be able to contact you and to
yeah,
speak to you and give you those experiences that you want. Because like you said, you have a human consciousness, but you also have a extraterrestrial consciousness, and
yeah,
those two kind of need their food, right? They kind
yeah.
of nourishment, both sides. So not too many people are willing to do what you do.
I know. I know that. And I think there's been other people in my family that had the opportunity, but they chose not to. And that's
Hmm.
okay. In my experiences with the positive and with the interdimensionals, it will only go as far as you want to go with it. They do
Hmm.
not make you or push you.
Hmm.
So, and I realize my experiences are probably different than everybody. Not everybody's different,
Right.
but I'm not going to say that these people are lying about their abduction experiences by any means, because I have no way of knowing. That's their experience, not my
Right. Right.
experience.
And like like we talked about, there's so many different species within the
With their
types.
own agendas. Yeah,
Right. So you know we have been blessed that we only experience the positive.
yes,
I'm sure as nature goes, there's the yin and the yang. There's got to be some that are not so positive. So um, it's hard to imagine having to go through that though,
yeah.
those negative experiences. And
Mhm.
I hope that somehow they get better for whoever is experiencing that. But I understand why you are so strong, because you had to fight not only yourself but also all the opinions of everybody else.
Yes. And
And
there's still some people that just, they just shake their head. They don't want to hear it. And I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. So I just, that's just the way it is.
right.
And that, and I always remind myself, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. So,
Hmm.
and I understand too that everybody has to get there on their own. You
Hmm.
know, they have to figure these things out, and that's part of the process. That's part of our evolution. Is everybody individually has to do their own research, and you
Hmm.
shouldn't believe everything I say or anybody says.
No.
Do your own research, because you are the one that walks in your shoes.
Hmm.
And that's why I also think it's good to get to know your inner self. recognize that that you have a soul, and your soul had an agenda before you ever got here, and had
Right.
no clue what the world around it was going to influence you as,
Right.
So, yeah,
Yes, they we signed up for certain things. How they came about, we didn't sign up for.
that's true.
So, but we signed up for certain lessons and certain growth, and that's how it is. And that's the surprise part about it, because you're not going to learn if you know what's going to happen. So,
That's true.
uh,
Yeah,
now, have you, um, when you started the website and started the Facebook, have you noticed that your contacts have been more often, or um,
yes,
more intense?
yes.
Yeah.
Um, because they, I am a hands-on learning person. I need to experience something. I don't want to just read something, or even when I watch a movie, I don't totally get it, to be honest. I mean, a lot of times, my son will have to explain certain things to me because I just, it was, I don't know. But so they show me things and let me see things,
Mm-hmm.
experience things. So that's, the good thing about it. And they also give me more conscious physical time with them, which is my favorite thing
Mm-hmm.
over everything, is the conscious physical contact. And,
Right.
you know, for me, I am in such awe and such in it's such a different feeling that people are like, why don't you take a picture, or why don't you do this, why don't you bring
Mm-hmm.
something back? You don't think about those kind of things. I think about how beautiful and wonderful it is to be part of something that allows you to be a part of their lives. And for me, I don't need any affirmation or anything to show off or whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
I've had my disclosure, and I know. So that's enough for me. But I understand that humanity, they would like to have things, but they need to find things on their own, just as I have.
Right.
You have to want these things. They're waiting for us to open up and say, we understand we are not alone in the universe. We
Mm-hmm.
want interaction. We want to know, we want to see you in our skies. We want this, that. And they want to see our frequencies
Mm-hmm.
increase, and become more positive human beings. By becoming more positive, we raise our frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And when they look down, they see our frequencies. They don't see us like we see us.
No.
They see us as energy beings in
Right.
our frequencies. And once they see us at all at a certain frequency, and that's what drew the interdimensionals and the positive extraterrestrials here now, was
Mm-hmm.
the fact that we are reaching higher consciousness and going through an evolutionary stage. And they looked down and saw this. And that's why they started coming in great numbers, and why
Mm-hmm.
we're having disclosure now
Right.
is because of humanity. And I think, as far as disclosure, humanity is the disclosure. We are the disclosure, because we are all reaching a higher level of consciousness. And when we finally all get there, we're going to realize we know these things, and we will have disclosure within ourselves. We will not need governments or anyone to tell us. We will
Mm-hmm.
know ourselves. So it's a beautiful thing, and I see it happening, and it's going to continue, and it
Mm-hmm.
won't happen overnight, but it's a beautiful thing. And we are all very lucky to be be here on earth at this time, because this is the biggest evolutionary human beings have are experiencing since our creation. And
Mm-hmm.
we're all a part of it. We are the disclosure, is understanding we are the disclosure. We are unique, beautiful, and we are going to become better human beings.
Hmm.
And our lives are going to change drastically due to all of this evolutionary and becoming more positive and better human beings. And I'm excited about it. I really am.
So am I. I do have a question now.
Okay.
I know that you have gotten information about the 144,000s that were never incarnated before, and they're coming. They're slowly coming. It was going to be 288,000, if I remember correctly, and then half. Well, they got called back, and only half went back. These are exciting times,
Yeah.
and
This is my
you
first time to be here on Earth.
right, right,
I know
yeah,
that, but I
yeah,
don't really know a lot of the uh, all the aspects to everything.
right.
I think that basically I'll seem to get more knowledge as needed,
Hmm.
and for me, I'm pretty much this is my thing, what I'm
Right.
doing right now, right here and now. I don't know that I'm supposed to. I just think they tell me things as they feel fit or feel as I need them. So I,
Hmm.
I don't know everything at
Right.
all.
Well, I believe that you're from that certain wave that came to open up the roads and open up and make sure that those bridges are fixed so we can all
Yeah,
grow and
yeah.
have
I
this
know that they
knowledge.
needed a certain amount of people to help raise the frequency of the
Right.
planet and to be like the jump starters.
Hmm.
Because for me, I have the ability to. My frequency is pretty high, and I have a very positive frequency. I'm so positive that negative people really don't want to be around me, because I will drive them insane with the opposite of what they're trying to do.
Right.
So, and I know that a lot of people, it's kind of like it's contagious. They pick up that I'm feel good and I'm
Hmm.
happy, and it does feel good. It,
Hmm.
it feels really good, and it radiates, I think, around other people, and then they want to learn to be like that too. And
Right.
I think that's what's going to happen to humanity is that as it progresses, it's just going to be like the common cold, and it's going to spread, you know. And I think they needed a certain amount of us here to help jumpstart it.
Hmm.
I do see that aspect of it.
Yeah. Now, is there anything that you have learned through them that you haven't really shared yet that you can share?
Well, I have shared this. I don't know how many people listen to me or pick up on it or even believe it, but interdimensionals and extraterrestrials have souls, and they all believe in a creator source, and they are here because they played a part. They did not do it all. They played a part in our creation,
Hmm.
and when I say that, I mean there were many races that played a part. So I don't think that just one race created humanity.
Hmm.
I think it was a combination, and along with creator source.
Right.
So I want people to know that they all have souls and that they believe in the creator source.
Mm.
And not only do they think we're special and unique and they played a small part of our creation, but they also did with our planet and with all living things and creatures on our planet. And from what they have taught me, and which you've already expressed to me that you have an understanding of, is that all things on our planet are living conscious beings,
Hmm.
and we are all connected. Our planet, everything that we do, we are all connected. We are all one.
Mm.
And whatever we do, like we're playing with nuclear weapons and stuff, not only could wipe us out, but it would disrupt the balance of our planet,
Hmm.
disrupt the balance of nature, ripple out into the universe,
Yep.
disrupt them because we are connected and one with extraterrestrials and interdimensionals all the way up to creator source, of course. So
Hmm.
everything we do affects everything. So their interest is not just us, it's the whole shebang
Right.
because we are all one. Yeah,
Very true. Very true.
yeah.
I love it. I believe it, and I understand that completely. And I'm sure our audience uh, will agree.
Yeah,
Um,
you have a great audience. They're kind of open to these things. Not all these audiences are, but yeah, that's what's nice is when you can find a little place where your little niche, where people
yeah.
kind of understand you and don't think you're doing some kind of weird Kool-Aid or something.
Well, this is why it's Glenda's Dragons Den. I figure anything from spiritual stuff to dragons and
Yeah,
everything in between. So
yeah.
I tell
It's
people
it's a pleasure. Yeah.
it's definitely that. Now, we are coming kind of into towards the end of our show. Is there
Okay.
anything else that you want to share?
I just hope that everybody will think about being a more positive human being and think about it starts with us. We
Mhm.
start with us and then it spreads within our children, then with our families and then our friends. And, you know, it doesn't matter what's happened in our lives in the past or what our governments have done in the past. It's all about who we are now, where we go from now. You know, I say we should be a forgiving generation, which that doesn't mean that you forget things, but it
Mhm.
means that you be the bigger person and we forgive and move on and learn from these things and make sure we don't do these things again in our
Mhm.
futures. Yeah. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Human beings are definitely strange beings sometimes.
Yeah.
We're practically the only ones that do something, get hurt by it, and do it again.
Yeah. We
So,
are. We're different. That's for
yeah.
sure. But,
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Just give a shout out. Your website is
timefordisclosure.com
right.
and the Facebook group is time for disclosure / we have never been alone / we are the disclosure. And I truly
Okay.
believe that.
There you go. There you go. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nancy. It was wonderful having you here, and what a great message. And you know, like I always tell people, you cannot really think we're the only ones in this great vastness of a space that we have all around us. It's
Uh,
impossible,
you're
impossible.
right.
So, and just wanted to say thank you to you again. And we'd love to have you again. Please
I
hold
love
on.
to.
To our audience, thank you for being here. Continue sending us our messages. Keep sharing, keep liking, keep subscribing. And as always, many blessings. And we love you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.